This is Opposing Viewpoints. I'm Tatum Everett, and it's Ravens week. The Vikings hit the road to the East Coast to face Baltimore in a rare matchup. And joining me right now is Vikings team reporter Eric Smith. Eric, it's kind of fun to see this Lamar Jackson Ravens team on the schedule this season.
Yeah, especially I think it's the first time the Vikings are going to see Lamar Jackson since he was a first-round pick. And as Tatum said, it is a rare opportunity that the Vikings even play the Ravens. That only happens once every 4 years. And Minnesota only goes to Baltimore once every 8 years. So definitely a rare trip for sure. And coming off of Sunday's loss, I think the Vikings are ready to get back on the winning track.
They'll have to do so in quite a hostile territory. M&T Bank Stadium, one of the best atmospheres in the league. It's no U.S. Bank Stadium, but someone who knows M&T Bank Stadium well is our guest for today's Opposing Viewpoints. Joining us via Microsoft Teams is radio broadcast team studio host Melissa Kim. Thank you so much for being here, especially after the week of rest the Ravens just got from the bye week.
Yeah, I'm well rested. Lamar's well rested. We're all good here in Baltimore. Lamar actually said yesterday that he is 110% ready to go. So that is good news for this team, especially with all the injuries they've dealt with all season long. They had Derek Wolfe and Chris Westry designated to return this week, but they did unfortunately have 7 players not practicing today. One of them, Latavius Murray, the #1 running back at the moment. So that remains to be seen how that will play out with him. But one good spot for the Ravens in terms of the injury front, wide receiver Sammy Watkins did practice today. He did not play for the last 2 games. But it is definitely a day-by-day thing when this team, when it comes to injuries with this Ravens team, guys.
Yeah, Melissa, we know that injuries are a big storyline every week with every NFL team, really. And it's not really an injury that's the big news today in Minnesota, but it's the COVID list. And Vikings center Garrett Bradbury is on that list. We found out this afternoon just before Thursday's practice. So if he is unlikely to play, if he does not play, then it would likely be, I think, center Mason Cole who makes the start. Cole, as we know, was traded from Arizona this offseason for a 6th-round pick. He started about 2.5 seasons, I think about 34 games for Arizona. So he's a veteran, he has experience, and if Bradbury cannot go, then it'll be Cole starting at center against the Ravens.
Yeah, I was perusing Twitter before this matchup, and I noticed a comment that said they were impressed the Ravens were at the record they have with the amount of injuries, considering they're the second most team in the league with players on the injured reserve at 16. So, Melissa, I know it's been a big storyline for Baltimore.
When it comes to these injuries, we say injury is the mother of evolution, I believe is the exact phrase. That's from Femi Ayombadejo, our former Raven and analyst on the broadcast team. And it really has forced the Ravens to evolve and to really figure out what they can scrounge up when it comes to offense. You look at the backfield. That is the #1 thing. The running backs, their top 3 running backs, all out with season-ending injuries at the beginning of the season. So they had to kind of scrounge around, find guys that were on the free agency list, Latavius Murray, Devontae Freeman, among those guys, Le'Veon Bell, guys that really were, what Coach Harbaugh said, really out to prove something. So they really had that inner will, if you will. So that has been something to see. The offensive line right now a little bit banged up as well. They've had to kind of mix around the pieces. Greg Roman, the offensive coordinator, has had to really be a magician when it comes to piecing together this offense. But it's been really great to see guys like Sammy Watkins come back to practice today for sure.
Yeah, speaking of picking up the slack for injuries, obviously the Vikings are going to have to do that at defensive end. Danielle Hunter tore his pec in Sunday night's loss against Dallas, and he is now on injured reserve. A devastating loss for the Vikings defense, and especially you have to feel for Danielle, who worked his way back last year. He missed all of last season with a neck injury. He rehabbed all off season. He was ready to go. He was playing well. He had 6 sacks in 7 games and had proven that he was healthy and once again among the league's top defensive ends, and now he's out for the season. So a crushing blow for the Vikings defense, and now they're going to have to kind of scrounge and find some production at that spot. Everson Griffin will obviously start and maintain his starting spot. DJ Wanham will go into the opposite starting role, and he'll kind of go back to the starting spot he had to start the year. And then behind those 2 guys, it's kind of a bunch of youngsters in Patrick Jones and Kenny Willekes. The Vikings tried to get a defensive end yesterday in Jonah Williams, but he did not pass his physical, so he is no longer on the team. So a wild week for the Vikings, and I think we're all in midseason form here.
Yeah, it feels like it's been a very long and wild week in the NFL. And I know injuries have also been a storyline for the Ravens defense. But what's the biggest storyline for you, Melissa? What do you want to see from this Ravens defense when they hit the field on Sunday?
I would really love to see some consistency, especially when it comes to tackling. I think missed tackles really have been rearing its ugly head throughout this entire season for the Ravens defense. And the guys, they've all acknowledged that. They know that it's the kind of elephant in the room right now, that I guess maybe not an elephant because they've addressed it. But I know it's something that they've been working on, their fundamentals. And it's really something that defensive coordinator Wink Martindale, he said that, all the guys are really just trying to blow someone up, and they really can't do that. They really have to think about their particular assignment, just getting the guy down on the ground. I believe Deshaun Elliott said the phrase staple guys to the ground yesterday. But they're all thinking now those mistakes are over with. They really have to move forward from here on out. And, Eric, you were talking about veteran guys kind of giving some advice, to some of the younger guys there on defense. Same goes for this team, too. Calais Campbell said after the loss to the Bengals 2 weeks ago that consistency was going to have to be their biggest thing coming into this game against the Vikings.
Yeah, and for the Vikings offense, there's really no bones about it and what the focal point will be on Sunday, and that's third down. The Vikings were just flat out bad on third down against the Cowboys. They were 1 of 13. They converted the first one on that deep pass down the right sideline to Tyler Conklin. And after that, it was 0 for 12. And that can't happen for any NFL team, really, but especially with the Vikings, who have such an array of playmakers, obviously Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen on the outside. So coaches have talked about it, players have talked about it, that third down is always a critical down. But when you go 1 of 13, you really make it a point of emphasis going into the next week that has to be better to stay on the field, to keep your defense off the field, and pretty much just win the game.
Well, here at Opposing Viewpoints, every Thursday is Hot Take Thursday. So, Melissa, we'll have you give us your hot take for this Ravens-Vikings matchup.
All right, my hot take will be that Lamar Jackson, who has very much improved and shown off his passing game this season, I will say that he throws for more than 250 yards. He's been averaging about 277 per game right now, but especially with the news today that Sammy Watkins was back on the field, it'll be the first time that Watkins, their first-round draft pick Rashad Bateman, and Marquise Hollywood Brown will be on the field at the same time during the regular season. That just kind of gives you an idea of how badly this team has been injured. And I also think that Justin Houston will have to get his 100th sack. He's half a sack away from his career 100. He was very close against the Colts. That was his former team that he was on for 2 seasons before he came to the Ravens. I think that he's really been hungry and waiting it out these last 3 weeks. I think that this will be it. Will be the game for him. And one thing that he does do is that for quarterbacks that he sacks that are high profile, big quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins obviously will be one of them. He likes to collect their jersey after the game, after he sacks them. So if you see a gentleman running around M&T Bank Stadium on the field after waving like Kirk Cousins' jersey, that will be Justin Houston.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of Myles Garrett and his graveyard of quarterbacks he sacked. Yeah. Well, Eric, what about your hot take for this Ravens-Vikings game?
Yeah, it kind of builds a little bit off what Melissa talked about earlier with the Ravens missed tackles. I think that Tyler Conklin, the Viking tight end, is going to have a big game. Baltimore has played 7 games so far this season. In 5 of them, they've allowed an opposing tight end to catch at least 1 touchdown. So the opportunity should be there for the Vikings tight end, and obviously Conklin is the leader of that group now with Irv Smith obviously on IR. Conklin is having a good year. He has 27 catches for 297 yards, career high for him. Obviously, as he's taken over that number 1 tight end role. As we talk about the Vikings offense and we mentioned being better on third down, Conklin can kind of be a safety blanket for Kirk Cousins. As you see the play here, just throw it up to him. Cousins showed on that play that he has a lot of confidence in Conklin. And so I think Conklin is in line for a big day against Baltimore's defense.
So we've gone back and forth getting to know these teams a little bit better, but let's finish the show off this way, Melissa. The Ravens win if?
I say the Ravens win if they can get their run game established. That's been their big, believe it or not, that's been their big Achilles heel this season. For a team last season, that was one of the top running offenses in the league, and then, dead last when it came to the passing game. It's flipped this year. weirdly enough. But I think that if they can get the run game established, Latavius Murray gets healthy, they really can, especially offensive coordinator Greg Roman said today that, especially with the colder temperatures, I know it's not cold here for Minnesota people, but today was 30 degrees in Baltimore. We consider that cold here, okay? But I think with weather situations and really just to get the offense rolling, to get off to those fast, quick starts they really need to establish the run game right away.
Yeah, the Vikings players sound like they'll be right at home in those 30-degree temperatures. Not sure if it's getting a little bit warmer for the game or not. I know we're getting some nice weather this weekend, but weather aside, Eric, the Vikings win if?
Yeah, the Vikings win if their offense plays better. I think it's pretty much as simple as that. The Week 8 game against Dallas was, probably the worst game of the season for Minnesota's offense. There's obviously going to be a lot of focus on the Vikings defense against Lamar Jackson. You don't get to face an NFL MVP every week. But in order to beat Jackson, the Vikings are going to have to score points. And like I said earlier, there is just so much emphasis right now on the Vikings offense just being more consistent, just being better. And they've been good to start the game. In the last 6 games, they scored on their opening drive, whether that's a touchdown, whether that's a field goal. So they're starting hot early, but they just haven't done much after that, and that has to change. You can't score in the first 8 minutes and then go 50 minutes, without finding the end zone again. There has to be some consistency, especially with the potent offense on the other side. So this is a big test for the Vikings. They're 3-4. They're going on the road to face a good team. This is kind of a gut check game, I think, for Minnesota to see kind of, hey, what kind of team are we? So let's go on the road, let's play well on offense and try to get a win.
Yeah, Andre Patterson said it best this week. Try not to lose the game, try to win this game. I know Vikings players will have that in the back of their head when they go to Baltimore to face the Ravens. Big thank you to Ravens broadcast team studio host Melissa Kim. We like 30 degrees, Melissa. I don't know if you've got your jacket out or not, but we like it.
I'm wearing a turtleneck sweater today for a reason, all right?
I know, so am I. All right, well, thank you so much for being here on Opposing Viewpoints. We will see you guys on Sunday when the Vikings and Ravens kick off at noon.